Hey, it's Marley. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about my best books of the year. So earlier this week, I posted my worst books of the year. There were 7 of them, and I thought I was gonna have 7 best books of the year as well. But then a book I read recently snuck in there as another 5-star read. So we actually are gonna have 8 books to talk about for my favorite books, which obviously is still not 10. I really wish I could have had 10 5-star favorite reads this year or even more, but this year we only have 8. It's definitely going to be a goal of mine to read more books that I absolutely love next year, but at least for now we have these books that I can call favorites. A lot of them were surprises for me. So yeah, let's get into the list. These are all books I obviously recommend for like basically everyone, and I didn't put them in any real particular order. I'm just going to talk about them in the order that I read them. And I apologize for this glare. It is very bright right now. So first of all, we have No Exit by Taylor Adams. This was actually the very first book I read in 2024. It really just stuck with me the whole year. I can still remember the feeling I had when I read it and how obsessed with it I was. This is a thriller book, and we have our main character. I think her name was Darby, which is pretty impressive if that is correct and I've remembered. But she is driving somewhere in this blizzard, and she ends up getting stranded at this rest stop with a group of other strangers, maybe like 5 other people. And when she's outside trying to get reception on her phone, she notices one of the vans parked in the parking lot has a young girl locked in the back in a cage. So she realizes that one of these people that she is stranded here with is a kidnapper and has this young girl trapped in their van in a cage. It is this kind of survival story of her trying to save this child and also try to save herself, because obviously she is in danger as well. They are stranded in the middle of nowhere in this blizzard. It is just crazy. It is so intense, so exciting. Definitely can be really upsetting and stressful, gross and disturbing at times, but just such an amazing book. And then by the end, you're just so emotionally invested in these characters as well. I want to say it made me cry or tear up even. So this is just a book I have to recommend for anyone who wants a really fast-paced, exciting and stressful read. It's just really, really good. Next up, we have a romance, which typically romances are not my favorites. They rarely get 5 stars for me. So I was really excited to rate The Bodyguard by Katherine 5 stars. I absolutely loved this book, and it's got to be one of my favorite romances of all time. It just really worked for my particular taste in romance, at least. In this book, we have a main character who is a bodyguard, and she gets assigned to look over this actor when he is in town with his family. And she's not really happy about it, because the reason she is chosen for this assignment is that she has to pretend to be his girlfriend, because he doesn't want his family to know that he has a bodyguard. Doesn't want them to be worried. So she is just pretending to be his girlfriend during the time that he's visiting his family. So we have that fake dating trope, the forced proximity, which is just some really, really good tropes in romances. It was one of those romances that is very funny, but then also has those deep themes as well. Like, our main character is grieving the loss of her mother. Our main hero, I think, is also dealing with a loss that they can bond over this. And it didn't get too smutty. I actually don't think there's any smut scenes, so sorry if you're into that, but I still think it is worth the read. It also has some exciting moments at the end. Just perfect, honestly. So if you are a romance reader and haven't read this book yet, you gotta. Now, I'm super late to the party on this one, but I did just want to quickly throw it in there because I did really enjoy reading this book this year, and that's Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Obviously, this is a really popular series that I've been making my way through over the last couple years. I have seen all the movies many years ago and many times, but this is my first time reading the series, and Goblet of Fire was never my favorite movie. I know it is for a lot of people, but I didn't particularly love it. So it was really nice to read this book and actually really, really enjoy it and give it 5 stars. I liked how much more detail was included in the book than what they could include in the movie. I just feel like I'm getting more and more invested in this world and these characters than I ever was when just watching the movies. So I had a really good time reading this, and I did just want to give a quick little shout out to it, even though it does not need it at this point. All right, we have a repeat author on this list, which is exciting, and that's Taylor Adams. I read The Last Word by him as well. This thriller is a little bit similar to No Exit, so it's no wonder I enjoyed it so much again. But in this book, we have our main character who is house sitting this house that's kind of in the middle of nowhere. She does have this one neighbor that she kind of talks to, but she is just spending a lot of time reading books, being kind of isolated and solitary. She reads this book that she really does not like, and so she decides to rate it a 1 star online, give it a 1-star review, and then the author like gets really mad at her and basically starts trying to break into the house that she's staying in and like take his revenge for her giving a 1-star review. So it's a little bit of a cat and mouse thriller again, similar to No Exit, where she is just trying to survive the night while this unhinged author is trying to kill her. This had again a really fast-paced plot, very exciting and stressful, had some twists as well. I just really enjoyed it. So obviously having 2 Taylor Adams books on my best books of the year list, I'm just really excited to read more from him. Again, if you're a thriller lover, you've definitely got to check out his books. They're so entertaining. Now for a young adult pick, we have The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. Ever since I started reading her books, she is always on my favorites list. Her books just really work for me. She writes young adult thrillers. In this book, we have our main character, Belle. Yes. Oh, and look, signed by Holly. Our main character, Belle, I think she's about 18 years old, and when she was a baby, her mother disappeared and was never found. It's been this really famous mystery of like the disappearance of Rachel Price. In fact, now that it's been like almost 20 years later, they're doing this little documentary about the mystery. And while this is going on, Rachel Price actually reappears out of nowhere. She stumbles out of the woods in like the same clothes she disappeared in. And it's like, the mystery is, where has she been all of these years? And she's not really being truthful, or Belle doesn't think she's being truthful about where she's been. She doesn't know if she can trust her. We're just really delving into Belle's family and finding out all of these dark things about the family. I just thought it was really good. There's definitely twists that you could maybe predict and put together, and there's definitely stuff that you couldn't. It's really exciting, and I loved a lot of the kind of mother-daughter themes that were involved as well. I just think in Holly's books, there's always so many different theories you can be making while you read the books. They're very fun. Obviously, none of her other books have gotten as much hype as the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, but I want to recommend that you do check out her other standalone books, such as Rachel Price, because they are so good, just like A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but they are a little bit different as well. So definitely worth reading. All right, another romance that is making on my top list of favorite romances is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This is a really fun romance that has a little bit of magical realism to it, which I think really elevates it. It is about a main character who is going through a bit of a hard time in her life. She's not feeling very impassioned at her job anymore. Her aunt, who she was really close with, has passed away. She's staying in her aunt's old apartment, which she has always been told is a bit of a magical apartment, but she never really knew what that meant. Now, over this weekend, she finds out that the apartment goes back in time 7 years. So it's a bit of a time travel situation. During that time, 7 years ago, this man, I think his name was Ewan, was staying there. So over this weekend, she kind of gets to know this man. You know, they start to kind of fall in love. Obviously, it's a romance. So then she comes back to present day and doesn't, know where he is. But then, of course, she ends up stumbling upon him in present day, and he is like a totally different person, not the sweet, like charming guy that he was back 7 years ago. So it's kind of like maybe a second chance romance in a way. She's falling in love with him in the past, but then also in the present. It's a really fun concept, and it just was one of those romances that has it all. It has the really cute couple, but also the humor, and then also a lot of those more serious undertones as well. As our main character is dealing with grief, it definitely definitely made me cry. It was one of those books that I just was able to binge really easily on an airplane. Just such a great book, and it's really hyped up for a reason. So definitely gotta mention this book this year. Another book I ended up giving 5 stars this year was Cress by Marissa Meyer. This is the 3rd book in the Lunar Chronicles series. I know this is a bit of a throwback. These books came out quite a while ago, but they are like a sci-fi fantasy retelling of some different princesses. So the very first book is Cinder, about this character who's basically Cinderella, but if she were a cyborg in this world where there is this like plague happening that is killing a lot of people, and these lunar people, kind of like aliens, are trying to take over, is basically the plot. The second book we have Scarlet, which is like Red Riding Hood, but Cinder is still in those books. And then this third one was about our character Cress, who is Rapunzel, as you could probably tell from the cover. Throughout each book, we're getting this new princess's story and her own romance, but we have the overarching plot still going on as well with Cinder, who's kind of like our main character in this series. Just such a fun YA fantasy series. I think the fact that we're getting these new characters every book is really refreshing. It's not like a series where you just have the same main character and same main couple every book. We get some new characters introduced, new romances, and this one in particular was just really, really cute. By now, 3 books in, you're just really invested in this plot. I'm really excited to read the final book in the series and see how it all comes together. But yeah, if for some reason you didn't read this series when it was at its height of popularity, it's something that I think still holds up today. This was, in my opinion, the best book that we've had in the series so far. Yeah, I just overall would recommend this series. And then the last favorite book that I just read recently, it snuck into the list last minute, but that is Everyone on This Train is a Suspect by Benjamin Stevenson. This is the second book in the Ernest Cunningham series. The first book was Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. You may have heard of it. It was a pretty popular murder mystery book. This is the follow-up, and it is just as good, if not better. I technically rated it higher than I rated the first book. So in the first one, we have Ernest, and he is describing to us how everyone in his family has killed someone, and they are all coming together for a family reunion at this ski resort, and then people start dying. And so it's a classic whodunit murder mystery situation. Ernest is trying to solve it because he is actually an author who writes books about murder mysteries, so he has some knowledge on the subject. In the second book, it is a follow-up about Ernest after the fact, where he has written this book. It's very meta like that, where he's written this book about the situation in the first one. Everyone in my family has killed someone. So now he's going on this kind of author tour. He got invited to this like author festival event that's happening on this train. There is a group of other authors on there. They are all like mystery or thriller authors, and then there is a murder. And so suddenly everyone on this train is a suspect, especially when so many of them know so much about crime and like getting away with murder. The reason this series is so great is the narration style. Ernest is really funny. He is talking directly to the reader in a very meta way, where he will almost kind of spoil the book and just make a lot of tongue-in-cheek jokes about the murder mystery genre. It's really fun for anyone who loves murder mysteries. And the actual plot in this book and like the whodunit of it all was really impressive for me. I did not guess who the killer was at all. I did not put it together, and so it was just really fun to read, you know, the quintessential scene of Ernest explaining everything and how everyone fits in with the mystery. It was really satisfying. Just loved it. So these were my best books of the year. Feel free to let me know if you read any of these books down below, or let me know what your best book of the year was. I would love to know, because I'm dying to have more 5-star reads next year. Hopefully it can be a longer list next year. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video and all of my videos throughout the year. Please subscribe if you have not already for future bookish videos. And I hope you guys have a great Christmas and a happy new year. See you next time. Bye.